There will always be a few troublemakers in any large group of hundreds of men, especially when those men are handed money and rewards that make them feel untouchable to the law. And in today's world of sports, it appears to be more and more typical to see athletes land up in jail for their off-field actions. Professional sportsmen may have a false sense of immunity when it comes to breaching the law, especially in the NHL, where it appears to be an epidemic for players to be in the headlines for arrests on a weekly basis. Yet, NHL players are subject to the same penalties as athletes in other sports. Even NHL stars face severe penalties when they commit mistakes that are discovered, despite the fact that crimes are generally less common among these athletes. The NHL is well recognized for having a large number of players who engage in fighting, drinking, and general rule breaking. Off the ice, or in one instance on it, a player will occasionally step outside the rules. The following 10 situations include players who committed crimes serious enough to send them to jail. Number 10. Money issues are a problem for Chris Nealon. On July 15, 2009, Chris Nealon, a retired NHL enforcer who played 13 seasons with the Canadiens, Rangers, and Bruins, was detained for shoplifting. Yeah, Nealon, a hockey player with a lucrative profession who was detained in a Boston mall for attempting to steal a bathing suit, was apprehended. 3 pairs of bathing shorts were purportedly in his possession when he reportedly entered a Lord & Taylor shop changing room, but only 2 were there when he exited. When Nealon was approached by security officers over the shorts, he attempted to assault one of the officers. The officers had followed Nealon out of the business. It was determined that, beneath the shorts he entered with, the man was wearing a stolen Tommy Bahama bathing suit when he was taken into custody by the security personnel and afterwards the police. The Patriot Ledger reports that he admitted he was trying to save a few dollars to the police. Number 9. Frank Beaton beats the attendant at the gas station. The distinction of being the only professional hockey player to be detained in between periods of a game belongs to Frank Beaton, who played 25 games in the NHL and 153 games in the WHA. Due to an assault he had committed in the city 2 years earlier, Cincinnati police arrested Beaton on February 19, 1978, during a game between the Cincinnati Stingers and Birmingham Bulls of the WHA. According to the Herald Journal, Beaton was taken into custody in the Bulls dressing room after the first period. Beaton, a Stinger at the time, punched a petrol station employee in retaliation for him accidentally spilling gas on the hockey player's Corvette, fracturing his cheekbone. Number 8. Steve Durbano is a frequent Don Juan. According to the Toronto Star, Steve Durbano, who participated in 220 NHL games and accrued 1,127 penalty minutes, was detained in St. Catharines, Ontario in September 1997 for allegedly trying to operate a prostitution ring. Durbano, who at the time was subsisting on welfare and a $300 per month hockey pension, was apprehended in a sting operation after a blonde female police officer responded to one of his personal advertising for his escort service. She met Durbano at a Tim Hortons donut shop where he discussed the cost of various acts with her and gave her a code name. A few days later, he turned himself in and was charged with trying to procure a prostitute. Number 7. The marriage of Kevin Stevens is in peril. According to the New York Times, Kevin Stevens was detained on January 23, 2000, after being found in a Collinsville, Illinois hotel room with a prostitute and crack cocaine. Stevens was named to 3 All-Star teams throughout his career. Stevens, a Ranger at the time, spent $500 on crack and solicited a prostitute as he indulged in both to celebrate the team's 4-1 victory over St. Louis. He had a wife, 2 kids, and a 3rd child on the way at the time of this incident. Number 6. Patrick Kane dislikes being mistreated. According to Puck Daddy, Patrick Kane, a forward for the Chicago Blackhawks, was taken into custody on August 9, 2009 in Buffalo, New York for robbing and assaulting a taxi driver over $20 in change. After paying a $14.80 cab fare with $15, Kane and his cousin were all but relieved to learn that the driver of the cab they were in did not have any 20-cent coins to offer them. The attackers seized the cab driver's throat, struck him in the face and head, and shattered his glasses in the process. They also yanked the cash they had given him from his grasp. They left the area without making restitution and were later found at around 5 a.m. Number 5. Bob Probert wears unclean underwear. Longtime NHL enforcer Bob Probert had a public struggle with drug abuse. His most embarrassing drug-related episode occurred on March 13, 1989, when he was detained for crossing the Canada-U.S. border with 14.3 grams of cocaine hidden in his underwear, according to Sports Illustrated. After crossing the border, Probert was detained by U.S. Customs officers while operating a leased vehicle that was loaded with empty beer cans and a bottle of alcohol. After discovering a cocaine mill in his coat pocket, the agents grew even more suspicious, which prompted them to strip search him in order to find the half-ounce of cocaine in his underwear. He was taken into custody and accused of bringing cocaine into the country. Number 4. Joe Corvo exhibits unsuitable behavior. According to ESPN, Joe Corvo, a current member of the Boston Bruins, was detained on November 13, 2002, in a Boston restaurant after squeezing and then hitting a lady. Corvo, an AHL player at the time for the Manchester Monarchs, made the decision to grab a 34-year-old woman's buttocks when he was out with friends and teammates at the Trio Cafe. Corvo was expelled from the restaurant for the incident, but he only served to exacerbate the issue when he returned to hit her in the face and kick her in the ribs while she was on the ground. He ran away from the incident, but was later apprehended and charged with ordinary assault and violence. Number 3. Ed Belfour probably doesn't keep his promise. A peculiar string of intoxicated incidents led to the arrest of Hall of Fame goaltender Ed Belfour on March 8, 2000 in Dallas, Texas, according to Sports Illustrated. Belfour, who was inebriated and playing for Dallas at the time, checked into a posh hotel with a woman. The woman was alarmed by the noisy and aggressive goaltender and alerted hotel security. As one of the guards confronted Belfour after escorting the woman to a taxi, he pushed the 50-year-old against a wall and placed him in a headlock. Belfour persisted in fighting the guard until the police arrived. He also kicked 2 officers in the chest, so they were compelled to pepper spray him. After puking on his own chest, he was still being uncooperative while being held in a squad car, kicking erratically and spitting on an officer. He then made an attempt to bribe the cops by promising to give them $1 billion in exchange for keeping him out of jail. Eddie was taken to prison by the police despite his kind offer, where he remained for 6 hours before being freed on bond. Number 2. Dino Ciccarelli left his pants at home. According to Sports Illustrated, Dino Ciccarelli, an NHL player with 600 goals, was detained on November 25, 1987 at his residence in Minneapolis, Minnesota, for leaving his house without wearing pants. A female neighbor noticed Ciccarelli, who was then representing the North Stars, sitting on his porch in just a sweater, and she quickly dialed the police. He was detained when police accused him of indecent exposure after they previously caught him outside his home in the nude. Ciccarelli received a probationary period of 1 year and was required to do 50 hours of community service. Number 1. Mark Hardy has very inappropriate behavior. According to the Los Angeles Times, Mark Hardy, who participated in 915 NHL games for the New York Rangers, Minnesota Wild, and Los Angeles Kings, was detained on May 21, 2010 in Washington, D.C. for improperly touching his daughter, age 21. While Hardy and his daughter were guests at the Mayflower Hotel, he was an assistant coach for the Los Angeles Kings at the time. After visiting a bar and getting very drunk, he climbed into his daughter's bed and fondled her. After making a report to the police, he was arrested. If you are a professional athlete, you automatically become a role model. For better or worse, it is your obligation as the athlete to provide a good example for the children who look up to and frequently adore you. Charles Barkley once said that, "I am not a role model. Parents should be role models. Just because I can dunk a basketball doesn't mean I should raise your kids." Barkley was technically correct when he said that athletes should be held up as role models. But the truth is that when they are in the spotlight, youngsters are more likely to pay attention. Professional athletes, however, far too frequently make news for the wrong reasons. Athletes all around the world are disappointing children, whether it be with domestic violence allegations or DUIs. Hence, we must learn that both good and bad can exist. Get into positive habits and steer clear of harmful ones. I hope you liked the video. If so, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel so you never miss any update from us.